In this quick tutorial, we'll go over the process of setting up a Python virtual environment and then building a small little project that generates jokes in Python. So the first thing we need to do for this is we need to create our project directory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my terminal. Now you could do this manually by right-clicking and say new folder and then opening that up in an IDE or an integrated development environment like VS Code, but I'm going to do this all through the command line, and you can do this on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So I'm going to load up my terminal. I could do it from here. If you're on a Windows machine, you'll use PowerShell or your command prompt. But I'm going to load my Launchpad and type terminal, and then select terminal. And I'm going to change my directory into my playground environment. I have a lot of projects, which is why I have this. So I have this in my documents, my local environment, my playground. And then, as you can see, multiple ones. I'm going to create a new directory, and I'm going to say mkdir, make directory. And let's call this Python jokes. If I do an ls command, it'll show that Python jokes exists. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the installed command within VS Code to open up that application with the Python jokes directory. So I'm going to say code Python jokes, enter, and that will load up the VS Code integrated development environment. Sorry. All right. Now within here, the next thing I need to do is I need to create a virtual environment. So I'm going to say new terminal, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type a new command. Now notice I have base right here. I already have Python installed and I'm using multiple virtual environments. So don't worry about that if you don't have that. That's just something set up on my own system. So don't get confused. What we're going to do for this local project is we're going to type Python, and you might have to type Python or Python 3. I've got mine set up so that it works directly with Python and it assumes it is Python 3. Linux users, you might have to type Python 3. Followed by -m, and then followed by venv, which means create a new virtual environment, and we're going to name this folder or virtual environment container venv. Why? Well, it's just easier. I could call it poodle, but that might confuse me later on. So I'm going to say venv and press enter. And you'll notice off on the left here that a new folder and directory gets generated. Within this, we need to run the activation script. So for Windows, it'll be something like activate PS1 or just activate itself. For Apple users, I run the command source venv bin activate, and you'll notice to the left of the base now appears a venv. That means we've activated this virtual environment. So any libraries we install in here will only be installed directly in this folder. It won't be on my entire machine. And we'll get into that and show the example of that briefly. The next thing we want to do is we obviously want to execute a program. We want to see it run. So let's go ahead over here and let's create a new file. I could say touch and give it a name of the file in a Linux environment or Mac environment. Windows, I don't recall the shortcut command, but it's a lot easier to just come over here, click on new file, and say app.py. And then simply say print hi. And now I can type Python app.py and it prints out hi. Simple, right? All right. The next thing we want to do is we want to install a new library just for this virtual environment. So to do that, the library we're going to use is called pyjokes. So we're going to use an installer called pip. Don't worry about understanding all this terminology right now. Just know this is the command you need to type in. If you're looking for Python libraries and you type in Python library pip with the name of what it is, the search results will give you a better result on the web. So we're going to type in pip install py jokes. And there we go. It went ahead and installed it. Now I'm going to run a command that allows me to clean this information up, or I could just press enter. So I typed clear. And the next thing I want to do is I want to come over here into my application and say import pyjokes. Now I'm not going to execute anything. I'm just going to make sure the library can actually be imported, that it really exists. So if I run my command again, which is python space app.py, there's no error. Okay, good. So that means I should be able to come over here and say print. What do I want to print? I want to print from the pyjokes library. I want to get a single joke and execute it. By the way, if you're not familiar with coding itself, the double parentheses afterwards means invoke this action or this function. So I'm going to type python app.py. By the way, if you're curious how I keep typing this so fast, there's a shortcut key on basically all computers that if I push the up arrow, it means use the previous command that I did. So if you notice I keep pushing up or down, it lets me switch between it. So I'm going to run that, and it gives me Windows is not a virus. Viruses do something. That's funny. That's hilarious. Okay, so let's test this one more time. Let's deactivate our virtual environment and see what happens when we run our app. So the library is not installed outside in our global, in other words, just on our computer. It's only installed here. And when Python runs its application, it's looking in our virtual environment container here for the correct library. So if we say, and we just type deactivate, notice it goes from venv to nothing here. And then if I type python app.py and another shortcut, as I'm typing, since there's only one app.py, if I press tab, it does an autofill. It throws an error because I don't have pyjokes installed in my global repo, or in other words, my main computer. It's only in the virtual environment. And that's how you set up a virtual environment Python and the benefits to it. And you're like, wait, the benefits? I don't understand. Why would I not just install it on my local machine? Why install it in this virtual environment? Because it allows for a more controlled project. So sometimes there's libraries that work with other libraries due to limitations. And let's say I installed on my local computer version 4 of pyjokes, but it doesn't work with version 5 of, yes, there's a library called pandas. This is a simulation or an idea. If I have version 5 installed of pandas on my local system, it might cause actual conflict with this version that it's trying to talk to. So it's better to have specified versions of the software or the libraries installed within the virtual environment, so that when I port it from one computer to another server, it has the needed project files that work together. If you have any questions, go ahead, leave them in the comments. If I spoke about anything incorrect, please let me know. Thank you very much, and I hope this helps.